Hello and welcome to the Daily Edit. I'm Todd Middlebrooks, your host, and today in this first of our weekly kind of tools for the job episode, we're going to talk about neutral density filters and how they can affect your nature photography. Coming up on the Daily Edit. Okay, so neutral density filters. We talked about tools for the job. The best camera, as you know from yesterday's episode, is the one that you have with you. If you didn't get to catch that episode, I'll link it up in the card and you can go back and check that out. But being that the best camera is the one that's with you, for certain situations, you need certain cameras. As I mentioned, we went on vacation to the mountains of North Carolina, and one of the reasons I was kind of excited about this trip was the ability to get outdoors, do some hiking, go see some waterfalls, and make some incredible video and photos while we were on the trip. And we did all of that. I used every camera that I took with me, so that was great. But I did have specific plans for each one. So on the hike, I did pack in 4 main cameras. I have a Canon 6D Mark II digital SLR with a 24-105 lens on it. That's kind of my main photography camera right now. I also took the GoPro for any water shots or underwater shots, like when we went tubing or rafting. I had the DJI Osmo Pocket for stabilized video while we were hiking and on the go, because it has a gimbal. And then I also had the drone, the DJI Mavic Air drone with me. So those were the main 4 cameras that I stuck in the backpack to take with me, each for various reasons, and each of those we'll discuss in an episode this week. In today's episode, I wanted to talk about neutral density filters to get the waterfall shots that I had in mind for this trip. So you may or may not have seen these silky, streamy, smooth waterfall shots that photographers make. And there's a couple different ways to get that. One is with the Slow Shutter app for iPhone that I've discussed before. And I did take a couple of shots with that. But the main way that I was able to get these silky, smooth water shots is through the use of a neutral density filter. Now, a neutral density filter, and this one is variable, so it's adjustable from various stops of blocking light. But a neutral density filter essentially blocks light that comes into the sensor of the camera. This is useful if you want to keep a certain aperture. Maybe you want to keep that blurry depth of field when you're outside, but when you open up the aperture, it gets really, really bright. Neutral density filter helps you to stop down that light and make it darker so you can keep that aperture really wide open. It also enables you, if you stop down the aperture a little bit and use in conjunction with a neutral density filter, allows you to open up your shutter speed for long exposures. And that's how I was able to capture the waterfall shot. So you'll see if I put this neutral density filter over this lens here, how much darker it makes everything. And that's on one of the more minimum settings. So if I were to turn this up to close to max, you can see that totally blacks out that lens. In order to make it get a proper exposure with the light stop down that much, you have to open up the shutter. That enables you to get shots like these. Let me get into the phone here. All right. And this is one of the waterfalls, Soco Falls up in North Carolina. And you'll see how the water just streams and flows over the rocks there. And instead of capturing and freezing that water, because it is bright and the day was bright, the neutral density filter helps you to get that silky smooth water effect. Again, that water just it's silky looking. It flows over the rocks, and even in the pool down there, you get rid of all the ripples. It gives a very nice, clean, just beautiful nature photo. Now, one of the side effects of this is that you have to be super still. And by that, I mean you need to either have your camera on a tripod, or what I did was I had my backpack with me, and I was able to always position it on a rock or something that's very solid, that's not going to move, and then put the camera on top of that, and then set the timer. So I set the self timer to take the photo so that I could have my hands off of it. Sometimes I even set it for 10 seconds so that if the camera was to be moving just slightly on the bag, it would have time to settle before the shutter opened up. Because once the shutter opened up, it could be open for 4, 8, 10, 12 seconds. One of the exposures, that first image, this one here, this exposure was 25 seconds. So any slight movement would jar the camera and cause anything that shouldn't be moving, like the trees or the rocks in this instance. Those should be crisp and in focus. Same thing here with this image. I was just on one of these boulders out there with the backpack with the camera on top of it. Set the timer, hands off. Once the image is captured and saved to the card, then you can set up the next shot. Same thing here. You was able to capture a lot of the light of the waterfall with the shadows of the rocks, and just really, you know, some just kind of hidden gems in this image, like the light here and the pools of light and shadow. And then this is Turtleback Falls up in Toxaway, North Carolina. And same thing, just capturing that water streaming over the waterfall and the kind of silky smoothness of that pool of water. So that's today's tip. Tomorrow's episode will feature another technique from one of the 4 cameras that I took into the mountains, and we'll discuss a different technique. Let's see, tomorrow maybe gimbals. I'll discuss the DJI Osmo Pocket with the stabilized gimbal for capturing hiking video on the go. And then in later episodes, we'll talk about how to safely capture images in the middle of a creek while tubing or rafting, and then aerial photography maybe at the end of the week. So stay tuned throughout the week as we discuss tools for the job, and each tool and technique to capture a different kind of photo when you're out in nature. Thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next time on The Daily Edit.